Good evening. Today is May 4th. S&P 500 was down 65 points from the high of 85 overnight to the low of 41.20. And this happened mostly on the comments of Yellen. She said that interest rates may have to rise somewhat to make sure that our economy doesn't overheat. Well, the market didn't like that and we sold off a lot. And then all of a sudden she has backpedaled and said that I'm not predicting anything. And she doesn't see that the rescue package is going to overheat the economy. So she didn't like the sell-off and backpedaled her statement just a few hours later. And the markets, I guess, liked that and we bounced. I'm not sure if you guys are all watching Victor's Twitter, which I highly recommend. He has tweeted earlier today that the Soji level, which is the 50 level, is in play. And indeed, we traded back to 50 level and exceeded it and retreated half of the sell-off from the overnight. We have already expanded the range from the previous week, as I have suspected we would, because it was a very narrow range last week, and it's only Tuesday. And the 41.20 level, I think, to me, has significance as it has that 41.10, 41.20 range from the week before prior, where we had lots of back and forth trading, up and down days. Andy, what do you think of, what do you make of today's sell-off, and whether you have some certain levels that you're looking at based on the options? Or
I've been waiting for a bit of a sell-off, and this may not be. I mean, I do expect the longer term to be up, but I think that I could see a bit more of a sell-off, and I was expecting somewhat of a sell-off. There's one of the things that I do like to look at is where where certain options positions are concentrated and the strikes that they're concentrated at. And so I use a number of services. I do some option trading myself, but it's mostly with ES, it's mostly futures, but I do like to take into account where these where the concentration of positions are. And so what you see is that right around 40 for ES, at least 41.92, 41.93, there has been a lot of call selling. And so what we see is that that's an area where, at least over the last week or so, this is a 15-minute chart, at least over the last several days, we've seen that it wants to pop above that level, but it doesn't really stay above that level. And then we have a bit of a sell-off. But the interesting thing about, because of the interplay of the futures with the options trading, that we tend to see some stickiness around these different levels. Not always, but sometimes we do. So it's it can be a good thing to keep in mind. But I think that overall the tilt of the market is upward a bit, but we could see a bit more downside in the near term as we're okay. I don't think that the inflation fears and so on have completely gone away, and despite some of the trying to stroke the market a little bit. And we have continued to see, so just like looking at the bond market today, we had, or TN1 maybe, that it was actually, if we look at the daily for that, bonds are up a little bit, so yields are down a little bit, but it was down from its high of back in October. It's been pretty bearish cast altogether in bonds. And then of course we continue to see commodities rally pretty sharply. Even today we had maybe overnight we had sell-off in commodities like corn, and then or a few days ago, and it's rallied pretty sharply since then.
Right, the Bloomberg Commodity Index is at the highest level since 2011, as many companies are raising their prices.
Absolutely. And then we have, I mean, inputs have been rising. All of these industrial commodities have been rising over the past year. I think something like, if we look at like lumber, then it's just been an incredible rise since, say, November. It's up it's more than tripled from that level. So it's sort of crypto-like in its rise. And this isn't a very liquid contract, but it still is, it's just risen an incredible amount.
Right. Nasdaq also sold off today, almost 2%, closed down almost 2%. It was down even more. And it looks like technology companies are taking a hit, and especially the famous Cathie Wood's ARK ETF, Innovation ETF, was down more than 3%, and it's down almost 30% from the highs. And her second disruption, Innovation ETF, was down more than 6% this week and 10% almost this year. So it looks like technology excitement is kind of paused for a while. And I think the sell-off in Nasdaq it's probably going to pull back a little more than it has,
Yeah.
because all of the earnings have been very good. Apple, I think Google and Amazon had really pretty good earnings. They beat the expectations, but the stocks are not really behaving like that. Perhaps people have realized that the expectations that they have exceeded were based on the quarter where we had COVID, where everything has been shut down. So it wasn't that hard to beat.
Right. We have one like Tesla. We've seen a little bit of sell-off today, but it was not quite as bad as the rest of the market, and it seemed to bounce pretty nicely. But we've got this sort of symmetric triangle here, just as we see in a lot of the tech stocks right now, where it's sort of approaching a place where it's going to move one way or the other, maybe up, maybe down, but it's this is usually a pattern where it's in the process of consolidating and going to make a move.
What do you think of Elon Musk? He's such a controversial figure, so I'd just like to hear other people's opinion. People either hate him or love him. There's nothing in between. He's this polarizing figure.
Oh, I like the guy. I could see how he gets on maybe some people's nerves. He's a little bit, maybe a little narcissistic, a little manic, but really his companies have done some pretty amazing things, and so I can't knock that. Being an investor in crypto, it's a little annoying to see someone pump Dogecoin or some of these kind of meme coins on their Twitter, and I'm not sure I see the benefit of that, but it would be better if he's sticking to Bitcoin and Ethereum, these types of ones that are a little bit more kind of the legitimate ones, or the ones where there's a lot of activity. So he's a little erratic, but I think his companies, Tesla, SpaceX, and I don't really know much about the one where he wants to build I guess it's called a boring company, where he wants to build these high-speed trains, very high-speed trains. Yeah, it's all very innovative, so it's hard to knock that.
Right. Well, now that you have mentioned Dogecoin, we have to talk about it, because it started as a joke and it keeps getting funnier and funnier. I don't know what it says about our system or our society, but it's an indicator of something for sure. It's up almost 40% in the last 24 hours, and it's now trading more than 50 cents, 60 cents. Do you have the chart there? 60?
Right, this is it right here. Yeah, 53 cents right now. It hit a new high today, and it's been pretty much, I don't think yesterday it hit a new all-time high, but today it hit a new all-time high.
Right.
And
It's
so that's
40% in a day. And then Mark Cuban also is now promoting Dogecoin, and he's saying that this may not longer be a joke. So, if we cannot tell a joke from a serious currency, what does it tell you about the times we live in? It really is fascinating to watch how something that was a joke and now it's a serious currency, or is it? Or is it just some sort of pyramid scheme like we were discussing? And then where is the SEC? It's a completely unregulated business. And even Yellen said today that we don't have an adequate crypto regulatory framework. And I'm wondering, what is she thinking, looking at the Dogecoin going 40% in a day, thinking, how's this going to end up for ordinary investors or for US dollars? She must have some opinion. I just can't imagine that this is not a concern to her.
Well, I would hope that, I guess that my own view is that I don't see anything wrong with speculation in and of itself. There's always going to be some object of speculation, and people can speculate in futures. That's all they have, or forex. You can get better leverage in forex than you can in futures, even. So I'm not sure they're going to be able to shut down speculation. I mean, people could trade gold coins at a coin show or something like that if they really want to if they shut down markets, speculative markets. So I don't see that. I don't see that going away. But what I do think the big question that a lot of people have in regard to regulation is two things. One, what qualifies as a security versus a commodity or property or something like that. So there are some, like say Ripple XRP, where they deliberately sold off a lot of these XRP tokens in order to raise capital to run their company. And it's a private company. It's a company that has employees and a CEO and so on. Whereas something like Ethereum or Bitcoin or Dogecoin, for that matter, they don't have. There's not a board and so on. It's there's not a CEO. It's just run by the community and people that voluntarily participate. So there's the ones that are truly more decentralized, and they don't have like a management team. And then there are ones that they're clearly were built and are being issued to run a company. And so but what's unclear right now, Ripple is arguing in court that they're not a security, or that if they are, then every other cryptocurrency is. But that's ridiculous. I mean, the rest don't have, in my view, it's ridiculous because the rest don't have a management team or CEO and so on. So something like Dogecoin is actually pretty decentralized. There's a lot of small holders of it. To its credit, there are a number of, although it might have started in fun as a joke, there are a number of different companies and so on that are accepting it as payment. Like you can buy tickets to Major League Baseball, or I think that like different, maybe not Tesla, but some companies are willing to accept it as payment, quite a few. So it's not entirely a joke. It's just it started as a joke, and but I think that's the one is what qualifies as a security or not, because if it is a security, then the SEC regulates it. If it's not, then some other regulatory agency like the CFTC is regulating it. So that's one. But then two, what's the taxation implications? They've kind of bunted on that, and it's a little bit unclear. Everybody sort of does it the way that they think is right, but there's not crystal clarity on how you should pay your taxes on crypto gains. One of the things that differs from, say, stocks is with stocks, if you are trading within 30 days of the previous sale, then you can trigger the wash sale rule, which means you might not be able to recognize all of your previous losses if you then rebuy that stock. You might have to defer recognizing that loss. But with crypto, apparently, because it's not a security, it's not a stock, there's no wash sale rule. So something like that, if they were to change that, they'd have to. It could have.
They will clarify the taxation on crypto shortly. They have just recently mentioned that they feel like we have about 2 trillion or 1 point something trillion uncollected taxes, and Biden is increasing the IRS budget by a lot. So they will definitely clarify how to collect taxes on crypto, and will start enforcing it somehow, at least try to.
I've been paying my taxes on crypto since 2015, and I think a lot of people have. There's maybe some people that haven't. But there's just some people who haven't because they haven't sold. They've held it that long, and they haven't sold from the very beginning. So,
but it's also, many people have wallets in those exchanges overseas, which do not report. Like you were saying, it's, you do it via proxy, some wallet. I don't know exact details, but I know that you could do it semi-privately, and it's not going to be reported to IRS. And I wonder if IRS is going to go after, and if even if they could, maybe they just can't. What do you think? Can they find people who are United States citizens trading on overseas crypto exchanges?
well, many of the exchanges like Coinbase, Kraken, and Gemini are all based in the U.S. and they do report to the IRS like 1099, but say at Binance or some of these others, their Binance, I think, is based in Malta, and some of these others, China or whatever. So why would they report anything?
Right.
And a lot of people, well, but I think that the most people that I actually do think most people have been recognizing their taxes, and I don't think that it's really common for people to try to evade taxes or pretend that they don't owe anything. The people that, if you've got something to lose, if you've got a lot of money in crypto, you've got something to lose. You can get in a lot of trouble. So why would you put it all at risk to avoid $20,000-$30,000 in taxes?
It's a YOLO mentality. You only live once. People are YOLOing everything these days. Same thing to taxes. It's
I guess I wouldn't recommend it. I think they'll find a way to make your life really hard.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Ethereum. It had, we discussed it yesterday, that it was overbought and extended, and it went even higher to 3,500 or almost 3,600 yesterday, and now it pulled back a little bit.
I think it's I think it's still pullback is very natural. I can see it pull back a bit more here. And I've been expecting to see Bitcoin actually rally a bit, because Bitcoin has been almost flat over the last several weeks, and or flat to down, and it has bounced a bit off its slow. But I could see Ethereum kind of consolidating a bit here, and then Bitcoin rallying a bit more. But what we're seeing right now is there's sort of that cycle of capital flow, is that we've had a flow out of Bitcoin into Ethereum and things like Dogecoin, and I could see it flowing back a little bit. So I'm flowing back to Bitcoin, but I could see over the next several weeks, Bitcoin making a new high, which was about 65,000, and hitting 65,000. I could see Bitcoin headed back to that level, but Ethereum rallying with it, staying above the, let's say, the 3,300 level, and rallying along with Bitcoin to a new high. So it's a lot of what's driving Ethereum right now is several upgrades that are coming over the next few months. One in July, and then one in Q4, and then the other thing that's really helped Ethereum is that the gas fees are way down from where they were a month or so ago, and that's allowed growth to take place in a way that was restricting the growth and was pushing some of the decentralized finance business to other platforms like Binance. And so these are called gas fees. So there's the fee to do a transaction is paid in Ether, and there's a gas fee. So this fee it's in Ether. You pay it in Ether, but it's based on the demand, how much demand there is for transactions. So the more people want to run transactions, the higher this gas fee is. And so it was getting pretty high that if you wanted to run a complex transaction, something to do with decentralized finance, you could be paying hundreds of dollars to run some of these transactions. But it's now collapsed about 80% because of some of the changes that are anticipated, some of these upgrades that are coming. That is like baking those in already. And so those fees are now back to a reasonable level, and it's so it helps to have it back at that reasonable level. It helps Ethereum, and I think that's one of the drivers of the sharp rally that we've seen. In other words, it's the changes that are coming are already lowering gas fees, and that's what the selling point of them is, that they'll lower gas fees. But we're already seeing the anticipation that they'll lower gas fees by actually having a lower gas fee. So it's sort of this, what was promised is coming true, and it's driving much lower fees on that network. But Ethereum, and the thing that's really been worth watching is not just Ethereum, but the Ethereum against Bitcoin. So I'm looking at ETH against Bitcoin, and so it's now at 0.061, so about a little bit less than 16 Ether per Bitcoin right now. But that was as low as just a few weeks ago. It was back down to well.
So is that at all-time highs, or can we see?
It's not an all-time high. It's all-time high was back in 2018, and it got about 15.15, so about 6 Ether per Bitcoin. But it's at the high for this cycle, definitely, but it's more than doubled from where it was back in beginning of April. So it was at 0.03, it's 0.061. So that's a big rally against Bitcoin. So doubled against Bitcoin, basically. That's so that shows you the strength of the rally here. But Ether itself is, I think, this is a very natural pullback, but I could see it maybe pull back a bit more here. At least I'd like it to. I think it, if it doesn't, then it just turns into this parabolic rally that's more likely to crash than continue. But Bitcoin, we've seen this nice two-step rally, but then a little bit of a pullback here today, along with stocks and anything else. But I could see it rallying a bit here. But then some of these others that I like, that I do follow, like this Polkadot or ADA, these have tended to follow the pattern of Bitcoin rather than the pattern of Ethereum. So it's sort of an Ethereum only rally, or mainly Ethereum rally. But there's some of these others that I could see Bitcoin rallying for a bit, and then some of the others taking off after that rally. I don't think that, I think that something like Dogecoin, which I'll look at that again. I don't think it's entirely a joke. It's easy to dismiss as a joke, but it's I don't think that it's entirely the joke that it was say 3-4 years ago. But it's maybe the way that I would put it is, it just depends on what your trading preferences are that if you want to jump on something and trade it, it can be a good trading vehicle. If you're looking for a longer term trade, I'm not sure that's the place to, that's the one to ride. If you're looking for more of, let's say a 3 week to 6 month trade, position trade, I'd say there probably are better ones to ride than this, but this could be one that if it pulls back sharply, like what we saw here, where so it rose up, it got up, to 45 cents nearly, and then pull back to 24 cents or even lower, just I think it actually, wait, there was a big whisker down here. It got down to 16 cents. So if you really, if you're sitting and able to make trades at the right points, even if you're not hitting the exact top and bottom, then this can be a pretty exciting vehicle to trade. But that's not really my style. I tend to trade more in intermediate term and let's say near term position swings, and a little bit longer term, 3 weeks to maybe even to longer than that. But this wouldn't be my one to choose. I'm more happy to stick with like an Ether or Bitcoin for those, and miss out on maybe some of these crazy gains that you've seen, where from here back in well, let's see, what is this, back in February, it was as low as 0.7 cents, and now it's 53 cents, 54 cents. So it's
it reminds me of penny stocks, when people trade penny stocks for that same reason, and it
for the exact same reason, and I think
end well. It usually doesn't end well. It's a very fast rise and just as fast fall down. And obviously, I'm not saying at all short this. Do not short this, because it could triple, quadruple from here. I'm just saying be careful trading it, because I personally think the Dogecoin is not going to end well. Joke is going to be depending on who is laughing last.
I think that penny stocks are a great analogy, because not just for like the percentage increase, as well as some of the like the hype that gets built into them,
right?
But also because of like why do they pump up like this? And it's because there are, just like with penny stocks, there are like pump groups that will buy up big chunks of this, billions of Dogecoin, and then they'll pump it through a very carefully orchestrated campaign online, and they'll suck people in, and then when it gets to this level, they'll sell, and they'll sell to a bag holder, and but I mean, that's not to say it can't keep going up. We're in the age of like Robinhood and GameStop and so on, where
we've seen it all by now. It's very interesting. It's been a very interesting year with the resurgence of TikTok and Twitter and all of the mass media that's being so popularized. I think those things are going up faster, and there are a lot of them than before, because it's easier to spread the information than before. What would you do? Publish in the newspaper or even, but now on the TikTok, I've seen quite a few interesting ladies promoting Ether the other day. And they're mixing messages, and they're very cute, and they're all saying buy Ether now. So we'll see.
I think there's also one of the things that we're seeing, and this kind of goes along with the fear of inflation, and that is there's a breakdown of trust that's happening in the financial system. And so people see crypto as maybe an alternative to that, much as they saw, and maybe precious metal still plays that role to some extent, but it's sort of maybe the 2021 version of gold and so on, where people see it as a way to escape the dollar into something that's going to hold its value better. But it goes along with the breakdown in trust that when people will go on CNBC and say, don't buy Dogecoin, don't buy GameStop because these are just being hyped up. It almost invites people to that reject mainstream finance to jump on these. And because, well, if they're telling me not to, that's exactly what I want to buy. And like a rebellious refusal to do what you're being told. So that's some of Dogecoin. One of the things though that really drives Dogecoin and is that it's very hard. It's almost impossible to short. You can short it on some exchanges, but like Binance, you could enter a short position there, maybe a few others, but it's not easy. Unlike Bitcoin, where there's many ways to short or Ether.
Well, they have minis now, mini futures for Bitcoin, so you could short it directly on an exchange.
Right. Yeah, so you can short Bitcoin. I mean, and there will be big short positions on Bitcoin at any one time, and people want to play it both ways, or there's reasons why they would short. They may even be just hedging positions that they have somewhere else, and so it's not that they're net short, that they're just trying to hedge. But with Dogecoin, because it's so speculative, people would love to short it, right? But it's just hard. It's not easy to find the exchange that'll lend you the Dogecoin to short. Right. And then that you can borrow it at a reasonable interest rate and so on.
Okay, well, thank you, Andy. We're going to wrap it up today. And Victor said that he can interview with us, or join us rather, for the last time this Thursday. So we hope to see him more often, and we'll see. But for now, he's coming on Thursday. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night.
Have a good evening.